They say blood is thicker than water, but they never tell you what happens when that blood betrays you. My name is Alice Carter. I'm a registered nurse at a memorial hospital here in Atlanta, Georgia. I've seen patients fight for life every single night, but I never imagined I'd be the one fighting for mine. Not from illness, but from betrayal. One night, while I was on a double shift saving someone's husband, my own husband was in our bed, with my identical twin sister, pretending to be me. People always said Alyssa, and I looked alike. Same eyes, same smile. But they never saw what I did, the jealousy behind her reflection. That night changed everything. I lost my marriage, my trust, and my peace. But I also learned that karma has its own clock. And when it strikes, it's never late. Before I continue, please give this a thumbs up if you find it interesting, and also subscribe to my channel to see more interesting stories. Thank you. I used to believe that family was sacred, until the night I found out my identical twin sister had stolen everything I held dear. I remember standing in my kitchen in Atlanta, trembling as I held a sonogram picture that wasn't mine. My husband, Ethan, stood there speechless, guilt painted all over his face. "She said she was you," he whispered, his voice cracking. Those words shattered me. My sister, Alyssa, had always been the wild one, impulsive, jealous, and self-destructive. But I never imagined she would go this far. That night, something inside me broke. The sister I once protected had crept into my home, my marriage, and my bed, pretending to be me while I was saving lives on a night shift at the hospital. As Ethan begged for forgiveness, I realized something chilling. This wasn't an accident. Alyssa had planned it all, and I swore karma would visit her before I ever lifted a finger. Growing up, Alyssa and I were inseparable, two halves of one whole. But where I found purpose, she found envy. I became a registered nurse at 26. She hopped between jobs, always quitting after fights with managers or boyfriends. People always said we were identical in looks but opposite in spirit. I was calm. She was chaotic. I was steady. She was stormy. After I got married to Ethan, Alyssa's distance grew. She joked about stealing my life, and I laughed it off, not realizing she meant it. She would borrow my clothes, mimic my hairstyle, even practice my tone of voice. When I couldn't conceive after 4 years, she smirked once and said, "Maybe life just wants me to have what you can't." Now, that cruel sentence made sense. She had turned jealousy into strategy. But I knew her weakness. Alyssa couldn't hide her true self for long. The night it happened was supposed to be like any other. I kissed Ethan goodbye, grabbed my scrubs, and left for the hospital. But Alyssa showed up unannounced at our home, claiming she wanted to keep Ethan company. She wore my perfume, my robe, even the little silver cross necklace Ethan gave me. Ethan had been drinking. He thought I had returned home early from work. He said she moved like me, spoke like me, and by the time he realized it was too late. Alyssa didn't stop there. She told him I had been sneaking around with a doctor from work. She twisted the knife in deeper, painting herself as the loving wife who understood him better. By the time I returned in the morning, she was gone, but her perfume lingered in my sheets. That scent would haunt me for months. Weeks later, Alyssa called me, sounding cheerful, almost smug. "Guess what, sis?" she said. "I'm pregnant." My world froze. Ethan confessed everything. The guilt was eating him alive. But what tore me apart wasn't his mistake. It was her intention. She wanted to destroy me, to take what little joy I had left. I couldn't even tell my mother. The shame was unbearable. Then something shifted inside me. I stopped crying, stopped pleading. I went silent. Because deep down, I knew something Alyssa didn't. She had awakened the wrong sister. Karma doesn't always wear a warning label. Sometimes it looks like mercy until it bites. I started documenting everything: text messages, hospital rosters, security footage. I wasn't going to lash out, I was going to build a case. Alyssa didn't know Ethan had installed a new door camera 2 weeks before. When I showed him the footage of her entering our home the night of the incident, wearing my robe, his face turned white. The truth began to suffocate her lies. But I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I waited. Because I had a feeling her web was about to strangle her on its own. Alyssa thought she had won, until she discovered the man she was pregnant for had a secret of his own. A month later, Alyssa's confidence started to fade.
Her tone changed.
She called me late one night, her voice trembling. "Alice, the doctor said something's wrong with the baby." My heart tightened. I wanted to hate her, but the nurse in me couldn't. I asked what was wrong. "They say it's a high-risk pregnancy. They can't find the father's genetic match in some tests. Ethan, he's not compatible." That was the first crack in her story. Ethan's guilt turned into confusion. He did the DNA test, and when the results came, it was like thunder in our home. The child wasn't his. Alyssa had been seeing another man, a married supermarket manager, even during her deceit. She thought she could cover it up, but fate had other plans. Karma didn't waste time. It started by stripping away her lie, layer by layer. Ethan begged me to forgive him, but my silence was my answer. I didn't need revenge driven by anger. I wanted truth, cold and clean. So I told him, "Don't hate her. Just let her fall." I went about my work like nothing happened, but inside, I was watching every move Alyssa made. She lost her job at the supermarket after stealing from the register to pay hospital bills. The man she cheated with abandoned her the moment he found out she was pregnant. Still, she tried to come back into my life, acting remorseful, asking for help. But I only smiled and said softly, "You sowed this, Alyssa. Now you'll harvest it." I wasn't being cruel. I was letting karma do its work, quietly and thoroughly. Alyssa's pregnancy complications got worse, and she was rushed to the hospital where I worked.
I was on duty that night.
The look on her face when she saw me in that nurse's uniform was priceless, part fear, part shame. I didn't mock her. I simply said, "You're safe here." While checking her records, I noticed her emergency contact was still Ethan Carter. The irony nearly made me laugh. She wanted to be me so badly, she even put my husband's name. Later, as she lay half-conscious, she whispered, "You always win, don't you?" And I whispered back, "No, Alyssa. I just never cheat to get what's already mine." That night, the baby didn't survive. Alyssa's tears echoed through the ward, and I felt my own fall silently, not out of pity, but closure. Alyssa changed after that, or so I thought. She became quieter, more desperate. But soon, she started spreading rumors that I had switched her test results, that I made her lose the baby out of jealousy. The hospital board launched an investigation. My license, my reputation, everything I worked for, suddenly on the line. For the first time, I realized she wasn't done fighting me. She wanted to bury me completely. But I was ready. I had evidence, witnesses, timestamps, even her messages bragging about, teaching me a lesson. When the hospital reviewed it all, they didn't just clear me, they blacklisted Alyssa for falsifying documents. She lost every chance at a medical settlement and became a local scandal overnight. Karma had upgraded its punishment, from heartbreak to humiliation. By the time winter came, Alyssa had nowhere to go. Our mother refused to house her after discovering what she'd done. Her friends avoided her. And yet, I couldn't celebrate her downfall. Deep down, she was still my sister, the other half of my blood. One morning, I found her outside my apartment, shivering, begging for food. Her once glossy hair was thin, her face pale. "Alice," she sobbed, "I don't even recognize myself anymore." I let her in, gave her food, watched her eat in silence. When she finished, I said softly, "You don't need to recognize yourself, Alyssa. You just need to face who you've become." That day, I realized my revenge was complete, not because she was broken, but because I no longer was. But karma wasn't done with Alyssa yet. Her real reckoning was about to begin. For weeks, Alyssa stayed with me, quiet, almost ghost-like. Sometimes I'd catch her staring at me, as if she were looking into a mirror that showed what she could have been. We were identical, yet so different now. Her reflection was hollow. Mine was healing. One morning, she asked, "How do you still sleep at night after everything?" I looked at her and said softly, because I didn't trade my peace for revenge. She didn't reply, but tears gathered in her eyes. For the first time, I saw something like remorse, or maybe just exhaustion. But when I found her snooping through my drawers later that evening, looking for my nursing documents, I realized she wasn't done pretending. She wanted to be me again. And this time, I wasn't going to stop karma. I was going to help it find her faster. A week later, Alyssa claimed she wanted to start over. She said she was applying for a job as a caregiver at a private nursing home in Decatur. But she didn't tell me that she used my credentials again, my RN number, my license copy, even my resume from an old flash drive she stole. When the nursing home called to verify employment, I was the one who picked up the phone. I didn't expose her. I played along. Of course, I said warmly. Alyssa is a hardworking nurse.
She got the job.
3 weeks later, state investigators found out she wasn't licensed. She had administered medication illegally. She was arrested for medical fraud and identity theft. The irony? She thought I'd turn her in. But karma did it for me. The day they took her away, Alyssa screamed my name from the police car. Alice, you set me up. But I didn't. All I did was let her trip on the lies she built. For days, I couldn't sleep. The sound of her voice haunted me. She wasn't just my twin. She was a reflection of everything I could have been if bitterness had won. I visited her once at the county jail. She looked small, her orange jumpsuit hanging loose on her shoulders. I never meant to hurt you, she whispered. Yes, you did, I said quietly. You just didn't think it would hurt you too. She cried then, really cried, not out of guilt, but realization. Months passed. I moved to a new apartment, started therapy, and reconnected with Ethan, not as lovers, but as two people learning to forgive themselves. Then one day, a letter arrived from the Fulton County Jail. It was from Alyssa. She wrote, I envied the way you made life look easy. I didn't want your husband. I wanted your peace. But I understand now that peace isn't something you steal. It's something you earn. I read it 3 times before I cried. For the first time, Alyssa didn't sound jealous or manipulative. She sounded human. And for me, that was justice enough. But karma wasn't quite finished with her story yet. Alyssa was released after serving 6 months with probation. She had nothing, no home, no money, no friends. When she called me, I hesitated. Then I said, come. But this time, we start with truth. She came quietly. No makeup, no lies. Just my twin, stripped of everything fake. We rebuilt slowly. I helped her get a cleaning job at the same hospital where she once tried to destroy me. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. Every time she saw me in my scrubs, she'd lower her gaze, not from shame, but respect. And for the first time, I saw her smile, a small, tired, genuine smile. Karma had done her job. Now it was time for grace to finish mine. Living with Alyssa again was like living beside an old ghost, familiar, but unpredictable. She had changed, at least on the surface. She woke early, cooked breakfast, and went to her cleaning job without complaint. Sometimes, I'd see her pause in the hospital hallways, staring at the nurse's station as if reliving her past sins. One evening, as we sat on the porch, she said softly, "Do you ever think I deserve happiness, Alice?" I looked at her, really looked. "Happiness isn't deserved," I said. "It's built one honest day at a time." For the first time, she nodded without arguing. It almost felt peaceful until an unexpected face from the past reappeared, one that would test her redemption in ways neither of us saw coming. Ethan came by one afternoon. His company had transferred him back to Atlanta, and he wanted closure, maybe forgiveness. When Alyssa saw him, she froze. The air went heavy with history and regret. He spoke gently, avoiding eye contact. "I came to apologize to both of you." Alyssa couldn't meet his gaze. She whispered, "You don't owe me anything." But he did. We all did. We owed each other truth. That night, Alyssa confessed to me. Seeing him again reminded me of the woman I used to be. Desperate to feel wanted, even if it destroyed me. I touched her hand. Then let this be the last time you borrow pain that doesn't belong to you. But I didn't know that Ethan's return would soon ignite the final fire. Rumors started spreading in the hospital again, whispers that Alice's twin had stolen medical supplies. I ignored them at first. People love gossip. But then, one evening, the head nurse pulled me aside. Alice, you might want to check your locker. Inside mine, I found small vials of morphine planted. Security footage later showed Alyssa near my locker during her cleaning rounds. My world spun. I wanted to believe she'd change, but this? I went home that night, shaking. Alyssa was waiting at the kitchen table, eyes swollen. I didn't do it, she cried. Someone framed me this time. Please believe me. I wanted to, but after everything, trust wasn't something words could fix. The hospital launched an internal inquiry. My name was cleared quickly thanks to keycard logs and surveillance. I wasn't on shift during the hours the vials went missing. But Alyssa's keycard showed she had entered restricted storage twice, something she wasn't allowed to do. When I confronted her, she broke down. I didn't steal them, Alice. I was cleaning the floor when one of the nurses asked me to leave some things in storage. I swear I didn't know. Her voice cracked, and for once, it didn't sound like a lie. But the nurse who asked her was no longer employed. The hospital couldn't verify the story. It looked like karma was circling again, but this time, maybe too cruelly. Alyssa faced possible arrest again. She begged me to believe her. I was torn between logic and love, between proof and faith. So, I decided to do something that surprised even me. I defended her. I showed up at the inquiry board, presented evidence of her new behavior, her consistent work, and the nurse who'd since been reported for theft in another facility. After a long silence, the board cleared Alyssa of wrongdoing. When we got home, she fell on her knees, crying. You saved me, Alice. I helped her up.
No, Elise.
You saved yourself the moment you told the truth. That night, as she slept, I stood by the window watching the rain fall, realizing something profound. Karma had finally shifted from punishment to redemption. The night after Alyssa was cleared, a storm hit Atlanta. The wind howled through the windows as thunder rolled like judgment. I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about how far we'd come, from betrayal and lies to fragile healing. Suddenly, I heard a crash from the living room. I ran out to find Alyssa on the floor, pale and shaking. Her eyes rolled back. Alice, she whispered weakly, I can't breathe.
We rushed her to the ER.
The doctors said it was a severe panic attack, mixed with exhaustion and stress. As I watched her lying there, hooked to monitors, I realized the punishment life had given her was never mine to enforce. Karma had done its job. Now grace had to take over. I held her hand and whispered, You'll make it, Alyssa. You're not my shadow anymore. And she smiled faintly through tears. Alyssa woke up the next morning, weak but calm. She asked for a pen and paper. I watched as she wrote, hands trembling. When she was done, she handed me a sealed envelope. This is for Ethan, she said. I hesitated. Are you sure? She nodded. He deserves peace too. A week later, Ethan invited me for coffee. He handed me the letter, his eyes wet. She apologized, he said. Not for sleeping with me, for breaking something sacred between all three of us. He took a deep breath. She said she finally understood love, not the kind that takes, but the kind that forgives. We both sat there in silence, knowing that the chapter that began with betrayal was ending in healing. Months passed. Life felt lighter, quieter. Alyssa started volunteering at a community center for women recovering from addiction and trauma. One afternoon, I visited her there. She was helping a young girl fill out a job application. Her tone was gentle, patient, the same way I used to talk to her years ago. When she saw me, her face lit up. Look, Alice, she said proudly. I'm teaching them how to start over. That moment was more powerful than any revenge I could have imagined. She wasn't the same woman who once envied my peace. She had found her own. And in that sunlight streaming through the dusty windows, I saw the true face of karma. Not cruel, but transformative. One morning, I got a letter in the mail, Not from Alyssa, but from Ethan. He was getting married again, to a kind woman he met at his church. Alyssa and I were both invited. When I told her, she smiled gently. You should go. Maybe that's life's way of closing the book properly. We both attended, quietly sitting at the back. When Ethan saw us, he smiled, no bitterness, just peace. After the ceremony, Alyssa turned to me and whispered, "Funny how life gives everyone another chance, even when we thought we didn't deserve it." I nodded, eyes misty. That's because karma doesn't just punish, Alyssa. It teaches. It's been 2 years since that day. Alyssa now runs her own small home care business, helping elderly patients, the kind of people she once ignored. Sometimes I visit her office. There's a quote framed on the wall that reads, "Peace is not payback, it's freedom." She tells everyone who enters, "My sister taught me that." As for me, I've learned something too. Revenge isn't always loud or cruel. Sometimes it's quiet, patient, and divine. It waits until the one who hurt you learns the lesson life wanted to teach them. Looking at Alyssa now, smiling, redeemed, I realize my revenge came true in the most poetic way possible. She became the woman she once tried to destroy. And as the sun rose over Atlanta that morning, I finally exhaled, not with pain, but peace. You know, the greatest revenge isn't destruction, it's transformation. Because when karma finishes its work, the guilty don't just lose, they learn. When I look back now, I realize I never really wanted revenge. I just wanted peace. My twin sister Alyssa once wore my face and stole my life. But in the end, life gave her a mirror and made her face the woman she'd become. People often ask me how I forgave her after everything. The truth is, forgiveness wasn't for her. It was for me, so I could finally breathe again. Karma came early for Alyssa, not as punishment, but as a teacher. It broke her pride, but rebuilt her soul. And as for me, I learned that peace doesn't come when others pay for their wrongs. It comes when you stop carrying the pain they gave you. My sister and I still share the same face. But today, when I look in the mirror, I finally see myself again. Because the greatest revenge is becoming everything they said you'd never be, and watching karma finish the story for you. Thank you for listening to my story. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share my videos.